Welcome everybody to the Movie Overload podcast, the podcast for The Thing. I've never done this intro, and I don't remember how it goes.
We didn't have to rewrite the intro.
No, we didn't even have to. I could just do it. Okay. Welcome to the Movie Overload podcast, where we will be covering 100 films through the history of cinema, from A Trip to the Moon to Parasite and everything in between, except for Woody Allen. Fuck Woody Allen.
Fuck Woody Allen.
Yeah, thank you.
Dang that guy.
Dang.
Heck him to heck.
Exactly.
I guess we should go around first and introduce ourselves, as it tends to be something that we forget normally. But now, as we're entering a new phase of the podcast anyway, we have some new faces. Yes. So I am, what did I decide? Chicken Nugget.
I don't know.
I'm Chicken Nugget.
Okay. Chicken theme.
It's a slightly different brand of chicken than last time.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm just always some kind of chicken.
Maybe. Poultry products.
You can be a spicy chicken nugget.
Yeah.
Next week.
Sure.
Okay. Yeah, we need to save some of this creative potential for future
Exactly.
episodes.
True.
In a few weeks, I'll be duck confit.
Oh, cute.
Yeah.
That's fun. Hi, I'm Aiden. Go, somebody.
Sorry. I'm Hunter still.
Nice.
Welcome.
No.
And I'm Anna. I'm new, I guess. I'm not Hannah, I'm Anna, but it's still a palindrome. I just have no H's.
Oh, tragic. Well, welcome.
Yeah.
We're happy to have you, even if, we're now having to budget how many characters we can have in our names.
I think I'm winning with the character count, but
Yep.
That's true. Yeah.
And you're losing.
Barely.
Am I losing?
Chicken nugget.
Chicken nuggets.
That's a
Chicken
lot.
Nugget has so many letters.
Yeah, no, it's true. I'm not really...
It's like
See,
4 syllables.
I forget that budgets are supposed to be more like golf and less like bowling.
I guess.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Because I was seeing like, oh man, I've achieved this round even more letters.
I-
But then why would it be a good thing that my name has no H's?
You're right.
Mm,
That's a good point.
Wow. So the point is, this is probably going to be the core group of people talking on the podcast going forward.
True.
Hannah will probably, hopefully, come back sometime as a guest. She'll rotate in every once in a while, but for the most part, you'll be seeing these 4.
There's some heckin' busy schedules.
Yes.
Yeah.
Everybody's changing around.
Until I get hit by a bus and get replaced by an actual chicken nugget.
Right.
Wow.
Wait, wasn't that
Probably
part
have
of the
better
plan?
takes, to
wasn't,
be honest.
wasn't that like an anti-Donna social media thing they were doing for a bit? Where like, oh, Zach turned into a chicken
Yes.
nugget, and like,
Oh my gosh, I forgot about
it was just like a bit they had going. I forgot about that.
That was
I
really
like,
good.
Oh, it's Zach.
He was on the podcast for so many weeks in a row as a chicken nugget, and it was incredible.
I didn't know about that. Nice.
Yeah, no,
Sweet.
it was a good time.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I guess maybe some things about the format are also changing.
Yes.
In general, we're probably going to opt for less aggressive lecturing and reporting, and maybe have a little bit more discussion involved.
Yes.
So that should also hopefully be a good thing.
See how it goes
for all of us.
We're gonna try it. Today's
We'll see
probably
how it
gonna
goes.
feel a little bit more.
Today's
like
a bit more of a
previous
lecture.
episodes.
Yeah,
But that's okay.
because
So good.
it's Anna's inaugural episode, and she happens to be. I'm just gonna say it. You're the biggest Bergman fan here.
Yes. I've seen one of his movies twice, but that makes me the hugest fan.
I mean, I guess we'll get into
Well,
how
I've
we all
seen
felt about it.
one of his movies 2.5 times, and I hate him. So that's a difference.
Oh no.
I mean, I'd be interested. Yeah, and I will say, like, I guess I kind of formulated my thoughts and notes about this movie more in a discussion sense. That's kind of, I guess that's how I roll, and I also don't really have clear thoughts. I'm just kind of like, whoa, existentialism. Let's think about that. And I, like, go to the cafe at lunch, and I'm like, I've been thinking a lot about existentialism, and my friends are like, oh,
Okay.
that's great, Anna. I'm like, no, it's awesome. Like, how much silence do you tolerate from God before you stop believing in him? And they're like, oh, Anna, that's really cool.
Yeah.
It was fun.
Well, yeah. I mean, I find the topic really enjoyable. I hope I didn't get all of my thoughts on it out in the car ride over here as I was screaming at Aiden all of my feelings about it.
Most of your
No.
feelings were about the poor Kurosawa scholarship.
Okay,
Like,
that's true.
the state of scholarship on Akira Kurosawa is in shambles. We can all agree.
That's true. Mm-hmm. It's a little upsetting.
Yeah.
I've been doing so
Tell
much
me
research
more.
on that. Well, okay. So for starters, I was reading a book last night. That's one of the more important books on Kurosawa, called The Warrior's Camera, and he begins by talking about Kurosawa's suicide attempt, which is a weird way to start your like critical review of Kurosawa's films.
Yeah.
And he ends that chapter by talking about how Kurosawa's like kind of political aims to sort of transform Japan in this like post-war era failed. Like, so it didn't feel like a great way to just like introduce, like, you know, let's talk about Kurosawa, because it made it just sort of feel like this guy was like a failure as a person or something, and then he was a failure as a director, and it felt uncharitable.
He was a failure at everything, and I wrote a book about him.
Right.
Because he's not important, and he failed at everything, and no one should ever think about him again.
Hate him so much. Let me tell you, in 500 pages.
I mean,
many
I
words.
don't want to hate too much on Stephen Prince, because he is definitely going to be quite a useful source for me with my thesis. But at the same time, like, I don't know. I feel like everybody wants to feel like they're like unique and really have like a hot take to add to like a discussion of a popular director, and oftentimes that ends up being like, I don't even think it was that good.
Yeah.
And it just, I don't know, that feels pointless to me. Like, I want to talk about what somebody did and what somebody's intentions were, more so than I want to talk about how much I personally like it. But then again, here we are on this podcast, a place where there's an extent to which we learn things, but a lot to which of which we just rant about things.
Yeah.
So I don't
Like
know.
right
We'll
now.
see how this one goes. Yeah, like right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well. Yeah. Let's dive into the Seventh Seal.
Let's go.
The Seventh Seal. I feel like I should start this episode by reading that passage from Revelation that they read at the beginning and the end of the movie as like, and there was silence in heaven. Maybe we need to start with a moment of silence.
Not for half an hour, though.
Not really, except that I will pause while I open up my notes.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah. I guess I am legally obligated to give some history about this because, I don't know, that just seems like something that you have to do.
It's the way.
So this, I guess the inspiration for this movie obviously came from the Book of Revelation. That's like immediately apparent. Like, I was talking to a friend and I was like, oh, I'm going to watch this movie called The Seventh Seal. And they're like, oh, like Revelation? So lots of Revelation imagery. And they talk about it throughout the book. And especially when people are like, it's the end times, like things are being destroyed and there's fires and like women giving birth to calves' heads. Like that's
Just happens.
that's
It's
all in Revelation. I think, pretty sure. So obviously the Book of Revelation is pretty inspirational and also
births to calves' heads in the movie. I missed that part.
He just mentions it as like a rumor. He's like, oh, I heard that happened. Like in
Oh yeah, you don't actually
somewhere.
see that. That would be horrifying.
Oh, it would be awesome.
At first,
though.
I was gonna say NIMBY, and then I thought about it, and I'm like, Yimby? I don't know.
What?
Yes, in my backyard. This is what's happening. This is the way of the world.
Okay.
Anyway,
It's
sorry.
a fun time.
Praxis.
Mhm.
I don't know, something. It made sense in my head.
I don't know.
worry about
See, I think it's really interesting the amount of religious symbolism in this film because I see the film as essentially agnostic and it's
Yes.
more of a
Oh,
humanist
yes.
piece. Yeah,
Yes. No, you literally like hit the nail on the head. Like that is like Bergman's entire career. So okay. So I'm the biggest Bergman fan in this group, apparently. That's my new title. But partly because one of my dear friends, shout out to Tim, is a huge Bergman fan. And I watched this movie for the first time with him. We did a movie club. And so he loves Bergman. And part of Bergman's whole career was that he was raised in a really strict Lutheran home. So that's kind of his background is like really strict Lutheranism. And so my friend Tim was also raised Lutheran. And he was like, yeah, I relate to Bergman a lot because I was also raised Lutheran. And part of Lutheranism is this like really strict, like religious, very Bible-based form of Christianity that doesn't have a lot of like mysticism or mystery. That was kind of the main thing that Tim was pointing out. And so part of Bergman's entire career is exploring the idea that if you try to define something too much, it almost loses its majesty and like bigness. So like like if you try to define God too much, then God loses his incomprehensibility. So that's kind of what Bergman is wrestling with. And also, like, I mean, in the movie, what they say, I can't remember who says it, but no man can live with death knowing that everything is meaningless. In our fear, we make an idol and call it God. Anyway, so just the whole like idea of agnosticism is something that Bergman explores through his entire career and never like answered the question. Like people would interview him at the end of his life and they're like, did you ever decide? Like, did you ever figure it out? Like, is there a God? Is it like the Christian God? And he was like, you know what? We should just be nice to people. And like the interviewers were like, no, really, like, who is God? And they were like, he's like, you know, we should just like be kind to people because that's where like you can find God is like in kindness to each other. So
isn't that the point though, where like the purpose of dealing with big theological and philosophical issues is not to find an answer, but to struggle in attempting to like define an answer. It's you're arguing over things that are fundamentally unknowable, and so you can like get greater or lesser amounts of evidence, but working through those ideas is like where the value comes in. That's one thing that I really appreciate about this, because I watched the film and I felt like I was missing something. So I went back last night and I watched it with a commentary that was on Criterion Channel by a very, very pretentious Englishman, and realized that the film doesn't like. It's not that you're missing something. It's that the film isn't saying something in particular. It's ruminating. It's thinking about these things. Yeah. And it brings up a bunch of different points that you have to think about and be like, yeah, how do I feel about that?
Like it kind of explicitly has that, where it's just like he's like having those questions and just wondering about God and death and all this stuff throughout the whole movie. And then, yeah, Death himself just at the end saying, there are no answers. Like, sorry.
Yeah, well, we'd never see any other supernatural forces or elements other than the figure of death. Death is inevitable, but we have no idea what else is beyond it. You know?
That was literally one of the things that Tim and I talked about, was the fact that, like, it's not Satan that this guy is talking with. It's not like some sort of demon or something. It's just death. And so one of the key questions that we kind of asked, and this is also part of existentialism, but it's like, is the enemy Satan, or is the enemy purposelessness or emptiness? And kind of exploring that idea of like, why is it death that he's talking to and not Satan?
Well, and I think there's also a big theme in the film about evil done due to religious thought or religious ignorance. I'm specifically thinking of the scene with the young girl who's about to be burned for witchcraft, and she has been like, everyone else is telling her that she like did the nasty with Satan, and that's why the Black Plague is a thing and you need to burn. And she believes it, and she talks to the knight, and she's like, look into my eyes and you shall see the devil. Do you see the devil? And he's like, no, I just see a very scared little girl. Yeah. But there's that uncertainty there, because she's like, is he behind you? And then immediately turns around in just utter terror to see nothing behind him. Because even though he knows that she isn't possessed, that she's just a little girl, he can't entirely be sure. You can't entirely be sure that it's wrong.
I felt like that was almost like he was wanting it to be real. Like he's just like, there has to, like, even if it's the devil, like, come on.
Right.
Well, that would justify it. Otherwise, it's just a bunch of people burning a teenage girl.
Too, yeah.
Which, it kind of does make it feel like ultimately that, like you were saying, kind of the enemy is the meaninglessness more so than like there being an enemy. Like, give me an enemy.
Right. Yeah. Having something solid to think about.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's especially interesting in the context of somebody who's like a knight coming back from the Crusades, like to just the plague Like I don't know. It's such an interesting way to set that, because like, man, if there's ever something that, like, at least from the small amount of study that I've done, feels more pointless, being in the Crusades feels just so like soul crushing and pointless and like a waste of time. And then to come back to that and also be like, oh, okay, and everybody's dying too. And that this is just how it is. Like, I wish that anything that I had been doing had been something that was worth something, or really felt like it was accomplishing anything.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a good setting for it.
You were going to say something, Anna, and then you stopped yourself.
No, I was just gonna quote what Block. Antonius Block, I think his name is.
Yes.
He says when the girl is burning, and he's talking with his squire, he says, "Who is watching over that child? God, angels, Satan, emptiness? Look at her eyes. She has just realized it. Emptiness."
Yeah. Shivers.
Yeah.
Fun stuff.
Uncomfortable.
Well, there's that whole theme, like with the I guess the equivalent of of the cockatoo in Citizen Kane in this film is when at the very beginning, when they stop by to try and talk to that monk, and he picks up his face and it's like a rotted out skull.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And just, oh, what did he have to say? Oh, nothing much. Oh, so was he deaf? Oh, he's very eloquent.
Yeah.
But what he had to say was like depressing, or I don't. Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, like, why did they just leave the dog? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Like, I know that's a bit of a
know.
detour, but like, it made me sad because the dog looked very cute, and it was just gonna sit there for all of eternity.
Mm.
Sad.
Waiting for his master. Like Hachiko. Did you guys ever watch that movie?
What's that?
Oh my gosh, it's a
No.
movie.
I didn't
It's a
watch that
Japanese
one.
movie about this dog. I
We
don't
are
know, like
unfamiliar.
say more about.
What else happens?
I think I've seen
Is it a
about
s-
the one that's not Japanese. I
Is
think
it a
there's, like,
sad
an
movie?
American
Oh,
one.
there's. Oh, you're
Hachi.
right.
Is it one
There's
of those
probably
ones where the
multiple.
dog dies, or are you think? Oh, is it the
No.
story about the dog that goes back to the train station
Yes.
every
Yeah.
day?
It's
that
not
one.
Japanese. I lied.
Oh,
It's
okay.
not Japanese, but the dog
Yeah.
goes back to the train station every day, but his master dies, and it's
Mm.
just like the most sad dog movie ever in the whole world.
Are there any
Um,
happy dog movies? Can I get
No.
one, please?
The Art of Racing in the Rain. We had a supervisor at work who that was the movie he was looking forward to most in the world.
Uh-huh.
And then he's like, just watch the trailer. And then it was a dog movie.
It was
and I was
just a dog
very
movie.
confused.
Yep.
Yeah, but I heard like, but like the book, like it's one of the best books that I've ever read in my life. So who knows? You know,
I
I've
don't
never
trust
read a
it.
dog book really. I think I skipped over that part. Like never a horse girl. You know, never. Never reading dog books. I didn't do any of it.
I'm a cat person.
Fair.
So when dogs die in
Wow.
movies, I smile a little inside.
Wow.
No!
That's like within earshot of a dog. How dare you?
Yeah.
If the dog understands human language, it already knows to be wary around me. So it's fine.
I mean, I guess that's wow. All right. All right. We'll
Cool.
just.
I didn't mean
We'll
to
just
make it
move
dark.
on.
It was a misconceived joke. I am sorry.
You have nothing to apologize
Yeah.
for. You're just sad. Well, you know, I'll make sure when we hang out at your house now instead of next to my cute, precious little Sophie dog.
I do have kittens at the moment.
That's true. Take me there.
Okay.
One
yeah,
of
we're
them
going
has
over to your
an
house.
eye tumor, and so we named them
Oh.
all after like Avatar: The Last Airbender characters, and we were trying to name him Zuko, but apparently there was another litter that had a Zuko in it because they're all named after characters from Greece.
What?
What?
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't. Who likes Greece? It blows my mind. Nostalgia, I guess.
People like.
Wait,
Greece.
so why can't they both be named Zuko, though? Why can't there be a Zuko from Greece and a Zuko from Avatar?
I don't know. I guess it's like cat mom dibs. That's the thing.
Okay. So what did you end up naming it?
Oh, well, Hisaka.
Okay.
Oh, that's
works.
nice.
Yeah, yeah.
Cute. I would name a cat Sokka.
Yeah.
Okay, but I would rather, like, if I got a bunch of cats, I would name them after like the animals. Like I would have like Appa and Momo and like
true.
We do have an Appa
Nala.
and a Momo.
Alright.
We had 5.
See, but what about our plan to name all of your cats after the frog in Over the Garden Wall?
Oh yeah. That's actually I forgot about that, but that's way better.
That's so good.
Jason
Yeah.
Thunderberger, George Washington,
Mr. President.
Mr. President. Yeah, they're all really good. Wirt, I guess, because is that one bit where he just decides
Yep.
I'll just call
Kitty?
you Kitty.
That actually works out.
Oh man.
And Kitty actually works too well. Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of animals, in the weird commentary I watched last night, the commentator was obsessed with drawing parallels between the wagon that the theater troupe stay in throughout the entirety of the Seventh Seal and Noah's Ark. I don't see it. Do you see it?
Interesting.
I feel like with the reading of I feel like with the last scene in the movie, it kind of makes sense, right? Because it's kind of just the three of them in there.
They are whistle across the safety. Although, okay, one thing that was brought up what's the take here? Why, when they see death and the figures on the hill afterwards, does it not have the knight's wife or the person formed into servitude? Anna, you
I
have
actually have an answer to that question. I raised my hand. No, so that scene actually. So Bergman, this is back to the fun facts of history that I am legally
Yes,
obliged
please.
to provide.
Mhm.
He was given 35 days and $150,000 to make this movie. That was it. And so all of the scenes were shot like right around the studio, except for the 2 by the beach. So like right at the beginning and right at the end. But the Dance of Death, which is when they're dancing on that hill and there's that dark cloud, basically almost the entire cast and crew had gone home for the day. And then Bergman was like, holy crap, look at that amazing cloud. We got to film it right now. And so he just like pulled a bunch of random people from the studio and was like, put on this hat. Go over there and like do this scene. So that's kind of like what it is. He was just like, I need just go. And that's why there's not sound recorded either, because he just like had this like one janky camera still set up, and so he's like, quick, the cloud, go.
Yeah.
Great.
Well, and in the commentary, the commentator had talked and interviewed Bergman in the 70s. Not the 70s, like 60s, 70s. And he described it as just, he was surprised that it blew up because it's just like a film he made with some of his friends over the summer. That's kind of how he described it. And so in Sweden, they only have a limited part of the year where daylight is bright enough to actually like make films. Yes. So almost all Swedish films are shot during this certain period of the year. And because of that, most of the movies wind up coming out around Christmas time because of the post-production process. It takes about the same time, and so a bunch of the like movies made in Sweden wind up coming out around that time. And so you have like my brain turned off. I'm sorry. I was in the middle of a sentence. My brain turned off. I'm left with nothing.
You were enraptured.
Cloud.
I looked into the emptiness, like the burning child. There's nothing there. There is no salvation for me. Only death. Death is standing under the tree with a hacksaw.
Oh no.
I have no choice.
That's so funny.
Yeah, that bit was really interesting because the problem. Okay, I'm gonna own up to something. I found this movie incredibly interesting, and I think it's gonna like change my life or something when I watch it a second or third time. But like today was so logistically challenging for me. I had like a phone call or two while watching the movie, and so they were parts of the movie where I was having difficulty listening to the person that I was talking to on the phone because I was too confused by what was going on in the movie, and then vice versa. And it made it very hard, but I did spend a lot of time focusing on and just puzzling over what the heck was happening with that guy with the tree getting chopped down. And you explained it to me in the car, and it made sense.
It's not that complicated.
Yeah, it's
not that complicated.
Dude dies.
Yeah.
But it was a very interesting, like, visual way to show that.
It was a funny exchange too.
Yeah.
This movie's funny.
It is.
I liked the jokes that I heard.
It's genuinely hilarious. And I think one of the things about that specific scene and just kind of like the movie overall is like, I can't remember if this is a quote or just like something that we were talking about. Because I was talking with some friends about this after I watched it, but it was like most people don't even think about death until they're dying, until they're face to face with it. And then they're like this guy, the circus theater troupe guy, when he was dying, he's like, please don't kill me. Like, I have a wife and family. Like, what do you want? Like, oh, I do feel bad. I do feel guilty about all of the sleeping around that I've been doing. And like, death is like, yeah, whatever, dude. You're done. But just, it makes me wonder why death was obliging to the knight's request to play chess. And it makes me just wonder about like, if you spend 10 years face to face with death and like thinking about your own mortality and thinking about what does it mean to be a finite human, I almost wonder if that puts you in a better place to die. Like, you shouldn't just like, I don't think that you should spend your whole life trying to run away from death, if that makes sense.
Yeah, well, and I think the feeling that I kind of got from the film is not that like, because death is inevitable, you can't actually beat it. The reason that death like agrees to do the chess game is because A, he knows he'll win, and B, he's portrayed as a pretty like a sort of playful character. He's morose, but he likes to play with his food, and so he's able to like toy with the knight as he's going through all this, and so when the point of having that extra time is not to like try and figure out how to beat death, but to kind of figure out ways to live with the fact that you're going to die and enjoy life anyways.
Yeah,
That
like because he says that at the end, right? Doesn't when death is talking to him near the end of the movie, right? He's like, "Did you enjoy your?" I don't remember what the exact phrasing was, but like, "Did you enjoy your respite from death?" And I think that is incredibly interesting. Like I think people who I've like authors that I really respect and just people who seem to really think, like that's something I think that I can find in a lot of them is just kind of continual meditation on age and death and those sorts of things. And even when those are not their like more popular works, to me, they end up kind of being the thing that like I end up holding on to the most of like seeing this person as somebody truly worth emulating and respecting. And I guess it makes sense in the looking at it in the context of this film. But like, for example, Ursula K. Le Guin wrote just a massive amount of like, reflection on being as old as I am now all of the sudden. Like, I'm going to die soon. This is just how it is. Kurosawa obviously did the same thing with his final movie, and honestly just the last few movies that he did, from Dreams to Medadio, just about this kind of like showing the progression of a life and showing just sort of this extended period past even when I thought I would live to, as being this like kind of incredible gift instead of just, oh no, it's still coming up.
Yeah,
I don't know, it's interesting.
It's fun. Apparently, a thing I got from the commentary, despite how useless the commentary was, I got a lot of useful things out of it.
Yeah, you're referencing it like every sentence, so I think it was pretty useful.
Well, it's stuck in my head. He would say things like, usually when audiences see a church in a Bergman film, their heart fills with dread. But in this scene, and you're just like,
Okay.
why are you saying this? But when they have their sort of Passover feast, like sort of thing, when they're sitting in the field and they're drinking the fresh milk and the
It's
wild...
my favorite scene in the whole movie.
Yeah.
I love it so much.
It's a great scene. And so Bergman's next film is called Wild Strawberries. And apparently strawberries, wild strawberries, are a thing in Sweden. Like, it's like, I don't know. We had wild strawberries in my backyard growing up, and we'd eat them, and they're good. But apparently that's actually more of a cultural like touch point in Sweden.
And I think, I don't know, this is just like part of my like personal history that like, and I don't know, just like strawberries are really kind of a key point in like my childhood and like who I am and like growing up. Because my family, we always go strawberry picking every year, and it like has turned into this like honestly kind of a holiday kind of thing. I don't know, it's Strawberry Day. It's my favorite day of the year, and we just like go and we strawberry pick, and we bring like chocolate and like fancy cream and like cheese and bread and stuff. And so just like the fact, I don't know, it just like struck a deep chord within me both times I've seen it. Just like the fact that like the pinnacle of joy and peace and contentment was as simple as like strawberries and milk. And it's like the two most simple pleasures. It's like something a little bit sweet, something a little bit creamy, and it's just like almost like the like seeking after happiness and having happiness be the goal of your life versus like seeking to be a more like fulfilled, honest person. And this is something, so I'm a psychology major, and we just like literally this week we've been talking about existential psychotherapy, which is a real thing. And it's super cool actually, but you basically are just like, hey client, you're gonna die, we're all gonna die, and like the fact of the human existence is that we can never have a truly intimate connection with another person because you can never fully know their consciousness. So knowing these things, let's talk about your life and how to become a more fulfilled human being and like authentic between your like inner self and your outer self. And I think something that stands out to me in this movie is that like I feel like Antonius Block is trying to become authentic, and that moment in the field with the strawberries is an authentic moment of just joy, both inside and outside.
Yeah, no, it's fascinating, just like even viewing that from like the entirety of the way that the film goes. Like you see him at the beginning and he's just really depressed and dejected, and just it begins on arguably a more somber note than like maybe any other point in the film for me. And there's just kind of a progressive, like you start to see him like wrestle with things and start thinking about things more, I don't know, honestly, and then you start to see him smile, you start to see him like kind of enjoy things, and it's very interesting because it feels sort of counter to where you'd expect a narrative like this to go, of somebody in a weird way, like, you know, literally playing a game with death, like seems like something that would get more dark as it would go until coming to this final moment, but instead it's kind of the reverse, which again I don't know how I like feel about it. I don't know what my takeaway from that is as far as the way that like I would live my life or something, but it's one of those ideas that I feel like is important to like note and wrestle with and find something in. I don't know.
I think it is nice. Just like, yeah, he takes his extra time that he's swindled himself into and uses it to help people and enjoy simple, beautiful things. And that's pretty good.
It's better than, you know, being in a crusade. Yeah. No, it's fascinating. It's, again, I mean, it's a movie that has a lot to talk about, even though I don't really get it. Like,
the fact that we're able to have this conversation means that we do get it on some level. Like, we will never know the objective truth of either what like Bergen was intending or what the work actually means outside of him and what he was intending it to mean. But having conversations about art is what makes art meaningful. So yesterday, right before I rewatched The Seventh Seal, I watched a one-person show that was last month made available on Hulu called In and of Itself, which is about identity and finding identity in the modern world. And the core theme, it is a fantastic show. Like, if you have 90 minutes, watch it. It is, the performer is technically a magician, and he performs literally some of the greatest magic tricks I've ever seen, but that's really like the B-side to the purpose of the show, which is the idea of this. He tells a story about like the 6 men and the elephant, the 6 blind men and the elephant. You know the story, right? Where each of them feel a different part of the elephant, and they all think it's a different thing. And then when they all come together, they can put the pieces together and decide, actually, this is an elephant from all of the information. But when we are told what we are, when we are told like the knight is, throughout the whole thing, even though he's left the crusade, he's still dressed as a knight. He's still sort of serving the function of a knight, even though his war is over. It's almost like he's a memory, like an afterthought, like a casualty of this war that is still living on. And when we're given that role, something is lost, because if we're all blind men trying to figure out what the world is or figure out who each other are, if we just boil ourselves down to our titles, things like a soldier or like a fighter in the crusade or a Christian or someone who believes such and such a thing, it takes away some of the dimensionality, some of the magic of the possibility that we're something more. What if the elephant isn't an elephant? What if the elephant is a magical creature that we can only comprehend within a certain like level of our thinking about it?
That's interesting.
It's really interesting that you bring up that point about identity, because one of the things I did take note of was that in the end, when death comes to the castle, and they all like stand and are like, "Wow, hi, sir," they introduce themselves. So, like, the wife says, "I'm Karine. I'm the knight's wife," and the Smith is like, "Oh, I'm Pudge." I can't remember his name.
Something like that, yeah.
Something like that. It was a dumb name.
Hi,
but he's
Pudge.
like, "I'm the Smith." Yeah. It's like, "I'm the Smith. I'm kind of mediocre, but I'm kind of good too. And this is my wife. And like, we just had a fight, but like, it's okay. Like, you just had to keep a tight rein on her, and like, she's fine." She doesn't even say anything. But then the squire, who's actually a character that I feel like it's almost more about him a little bit, because he says to this girl, which her whole plot line is weird. She literally has no lines, or she has like one line in the entire movie, and he's like, "I could have raped you, but I didn't, so come be my servant." Yeah. But he says to her, like, "This is a time to reflect on your own indifference. In this final moment, feel the triumph of being alive." And I kind of feel like, in some ways, the squire is the one who's figured it out the most, where he like spends the whole movie like kind of being a jerk, but also like he helps a lot of people. And I don't know. I just think his character is really interesting to me. But the concept of being like, when you're face to face with death, do you introduce yourself with your name and your job, or do you spend the last moment being like, "Wow, I was alive. Like, this is my hand. This is my breath. Life." And like, I don't know, just like, how do you approach the thought that you are going to die almost?
Yeah.
Well, and I would argue that the person who's figured it out the most is not the squire, but the young woman, because she's the only one who is able to accept death. And she like just gets down and she just has that whole like Joan of Arc moment. She's like, "It is finished." Yeah. And there's just a sublime look on her face. But in the background, we have the knight who we've been following the whole time, just rubbing his face into his hands, unwilling to even like look at what's happening, just unwilling to accept his final fate.
Thank you for pointing that out, because the entire time I was watching it, I was struggling to be like, what is it that this like is evoking to me tonally? Like, this is like something else I've seen. It's definitely the Passion of Joan of Arc.
Definitely
like
the Passion of Joan of Arc.
Makes sense.
The face movie. All of the shots when like the flagellators are coming through and are being like, "Repent," you see the people's faces. Joan of Arc. Any movie that just has a bunch of close-ups on people's faces is the Passion of Joan of Arc fundamentally.
It's so good. But that final scene where she's looking up like that was just, man, Bergman takes a bit from Dreyer, I guess. And I don't know if you've seen that one, Anna. We did that one I think it was like the second or third, maybe.
It's pretty early, yeah.
One of the earlier episodes we did.
It's a good movie if you like looking at faces.
Yes.
Lots of close-ups.
If you want
Maybe, I don't know,
the best performances you've ever seen
good.
in your life, like it's a silent film, but there's so much emotion that's expressed, and also cinematography-wise, like
Yeah, I love the cinematography. It's so great.
Cinematography-wise, it's one of the clearest, cleanest. Like, I've never seen anything that looks like it even now, and it came out in 26, I think.
Yeah.
So it's old. It's almost 100 years old now.
Did
I highly
cinema
recommend it.
peak in the 1920s?
I think that cinema peaked with that movie. I
Case
still
could be
feel
made.
like it's
It
had the most
peaked,
impact
and we're
on
going
me.
downhill from here. We're going to get to Parasite, and we're going to be like, we lost so much. So much. This great movie.
It's hard to
that
say about Parasite.
Yeah, we'll watch Parasite and we'll just be like, man, I wish I was watching A Trip to the Moon instead. What the heck is
No.
Garbage.
Yeah, I'd
Like-
go along with this joke, but I love South Korean cinema so much.
It's
like,
so
yeah.
You're going to be a little annoyed, I think, when we get to some of our South Korean picks because we're only covering, I think, 3, and one of them is Old Boy. So.
Yeah, the one
excited.
South Korean movie that everyone likes that I don't.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to be sad through the entirety of when we reach the 2000s because the only good movies that were made from 2000 to like 2010 were not made in America.
Well, that's why we're covering like Yeah. I think we're doing that one, aren't we?
I think that's on
In the
us.
Mood for Love.
Yeah,
We're doing a lot of
we're covering the good shit.
the good shit, which
I was
is
just going to go pull it up.
all Southeast Asian cinema,
Get out of America.
basically. I mean, yeah, that's the interesting thing is I think pretty much everything that we've covered so far, if I were ranking them, pretty much all the American stuff is at the bottom, and anything that's not made in America has ended up being way closer to the top.
Yeah.
Because people are just, maybe part of it's that people are more experimental with smaller budgets. Well, there's probably a lot of different reasons for
It's
that.
because capitalism.
I was literally about to say, let's
Because-
talk about capitalism and the way that it affects the film industry.
Yeah.
Okay, but the thing is, I would have said that before, except for with the like ungodly amount of reading I've done on Kurosawa, which leads me to believe that the reason why Kurosawa was the way that he was is very heavily because of a very like rigid and very specific kind of like studio structure.
Yeah, well, so great art can be produced under restrictions and limitations, and sometimes the greatest art is like made in response to the conditions in which it was made, like pushing against its limitations. See, I don't know how art is supposed to be defined, but the only definition I have in my mind is art is the friction that's created when the human imagination meets reality. And so
I like that a lot.
I know, it's sexy, right? I've been like every night, like, how do I define art? Okay. But you have that thing where because a lot of American films, if something's working, the primary objective of a studio system is to produce more things like the thing that made money and not to make new things that can like change and adapt. Like competition is supposed to breed innovation, but oftentimes it just breeds repetition.
Yeah. No, okay, that's an interesting point because that would be a significant difference for the way that kind of the Japanese studio structure worked, is it wasn't as much, make something like this. It was, this is our guy. This guy makes a movie and then he makes another movie and then he makes another movie. And sometimes we try to fuck up his day and make him change something or cut down the beautiful Dostoevskian epic from 4 hours and 15 minutes to 2 hours and 40 minutes, which I will never get over ever. Sometimes they do that, but in general, it's I mean, we had Ozu, we had Naruse, we had just a bunch of people in that era who were just making film after film as they wanted to, and they were enough to keep the industry going, which I guess is a little different than the American model. Although you did have your Howard Hawkses and your, I guess early on, your Chaplins and your Hitchcocks maybe.
Like,
I don't know.
You can make great things in the studio system. We have like a Citizen Kane and The Godfather here and there. And sometimes that happens, but it's not, it's like, it's fresh new things coming in, like new ideas just sudden, like it's innovation that winds up happening within that system, and not like after like 7 iterations. After the 7th Paranormal Activity movie, we get the greatest horror movie ever made.
We finally figured it out because we've refined it enough, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, but that actually leads me to an interesting question for you guys that I've been thinking about. Like, does A24 actually like break out of that, or is it just breeding a new repetitive genre?
Well, I think that a lot of the praise that A24 winds up getting and the like reverence that it sees nowadays is due to kind of like a selection bias. Like they have picked up for distribution like quite a few just great films that were released in the 2010s. And all of the bad films they picked up, no one remembers were produced by A24. And so you wind up, you can still get some stuff that's good, but I think that as time goes on, we're going to see a lot more of the body of A24 be the fluff that nobody likes, and a lot less of it be like your Vavitches or Hereditaries or the like.
Yeah.
Vavitches.
I appreciate that. Yeah. No, that's interesting. Yeah, because I don't know, I felt like a lot of those movies end up being kind of samey. Like what we consider the 2010s like masterful indie whatever thing is all kind of getting more and more samey.
Yeah.
Although now that I think about it, I feel like The Green Knight is going to be, not only is it going to be really good, but it probably is going to bring up some interesting comparisons to this film.
Yeah.
That would be super cool, because The Green Knight, like the book itself, has a lot of that.
That's true.
Stuff in it. I don't know. We read it this semester in my English class, and I watched a film production that was not good.
Yikes.
So I'm really holding out. That's my review on Letterboxd. Follow me on Letterboxd. Yikes.
I guess we could probably tag our Letterboxd handles somewhere.
Could put that on the website.
No.
Yeah.
Well, then everyone's going to lose respect for me because they'll realize that while I'm talking about big, important films, I've watched nothing but, like, the 2000s Master of Horror anthology series for, like, the last week. I talk a big talk. I watch trash.
Yeah, but, like, that's fun. That's okay.
And they will discover that at this point, I basically only watch things for this podcast or when they're assigned to me in my Shakespeare class.
Me too.
Yeah, that's what it's gonna be for me. They're also gonna find out that I rated 8.5 3 stars. So I think that's my biggest dirty secret when it comes to film.
Okay, well, you either get a redemption arc in a few weeks, or you get to like continue being the heel. So I guess we'll see how it goes.
We'll see. I'm excited to watch it again at this point in my life. And like, I don't know. I have no reference. I have no point of reference for 8.5. Like the closest thing I've seen to it is, I guess, what was it? Rome Open City. That's about as close as I've gotten because he covered that.
That's not
which I don't
the
think
vibe.
has anything to do with.
No. So it's surrealism, baby.
Heck yeah.
No spoilers.
I'm excited.
You don't spoil that movie. You
It's
just
true.
you can't spoil it. It's like
So
visual
there's this
metaphor
girl in a
soup.
white dress, and she like is there sometimes, but she's not there all the time, and that's like the entire.
And it's probably a metaphor, but it's not necessarily one.
Okay, I don't understand why my friends. You know, I think I've ranted about this person on the podcast. Her, my friend has this film professor who just has this very, very like limited and stupid view of films.
Oh yeah.
She's devised the perfect formula you need to craft every good film, and if it doesn't fit the formula, it's a bad film, which is why she thinks that Parasite sucks.
But the perfect movie is David Lynch's The Straight Story. You know, the one nobody remembers?
What? That's her opinion. Yeah, she made them watch
Weird.
that. She made them watch 8.5. She's like very into a very specific structure, and I don't understand how she can have any appreciation for realism or surrealism. It feels like the sort of thing where she devised this structure of what makes a good movie for now, for how I consider a modern film good, and then any film that's old and generally well received just kind of gets a pass. Anyway, very, very intriguing stuff. Very excited to. I don't know. It almost makes me want to rip into 8.5 when we get there. Just
you can hate it. It's gotten enough love in its time. It can take it.
That's probably true.
Say that.
We'll see.
No, and I did like the movie, and there's a lot of things to think about, and like I honestly I think about 8.5 all the time. There's one specific quote that I'm just like lives rent free in my brain, but well, the quote is, "We're surrounded by words and thoughts and images that have no right to exist."
Oh,
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. So
Spicy
that's
quote.
I mean, like literally I think about that every day, especially when I'm like I don't know, I'm like writing an essay that I don't care about, or I'm like trying to write a poem and I'm just like, we're surrounded by thoughts that have no right to exist. Anyway, there's a lot to 8.5, but there's also a lot that I just like, I'm like, this is not good. Anyway, we're not talking about 8.5 right now.
Well,
We're
no.
talking about.
I think one of the cool things about going through all of these classic movies like we are is the fact that not every great movie has to mean the world to everyone. Like movies kind of changed the landscape of cinema, could have like affected the world as we know it and how we see the world, and we can watch them and we can say, yeah, they were fine. Even though I've talked a lot about The Seventh Seal in this, I don't love Bergman.
I was gonna say, like, why you said at the beginning that you don't like this movie. What about it
That Letterboxd
irks
review.
you?
Oh, I didn't even read it.
No, so I ironically posted on Letterboxd that objectively it's the worst movie ever made because I hate the word objectively, and using it incorrectly makes me happy. So it's a really good movie. It's really well crafted. I love specific moments from it, but it is not the type of cinema that is personally meaningful to me.
That's valid.
Yeah, like I'm being hyperbolic to make a point, but I like this movie. I didn't love it because I love weird, surreal shit. That's what I do.
That's fun.
And I can really appreciate stuff like this, but I can also say that I wish it was shot differently in certain places.
Yeah.
I would have liked it more if it were weirder.
Yeah, I don't know why in my head Bergman has always like been, like I always assumed, because this is my first time watching Bergman, I always assumed his like visual style would be more like vaguely like Tarkovsky-esque or something like that, and it's not.
Yeah, well, so he's not like a visual stylist. He's really good at like staging scenes, like composing like groups, where you can see a lot of the shots where they're like large groups of people in here. He does some really interesting things with that.
Yeah.
And he reads as a stage director,
Which is his background.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And that's how, like, one of the other fun facts that I was legally required to find out was that some of the inspiration for this movie came from a play that he had written and performed at a summer festival with, like, most of the cast.
Interesting.
So, like, most of the cast are his buddies from acting school. And he's like, hey, guys, you want to be in my movie? And they're like, yeah, Bergman, we love you. So that's that.
That is so unexpected. I don't like, this movie just seems like, I mean, maybe it's just been built up in my head as well, but it seems like it's, you know, it has such lofty goals, and it, you know, has meant so much to so many people. It's very interesting that that's how it came about.
Half a century of critical analysis will do that to you.
Well, and also there's a lot of, like, almost lines that are thrown away that I'm like, whoa,
Yeah.
you just said that. Like, I don't know, maybe you were looking down at the parts that were, like, the most impactful moments.
I was looking at it the whole time.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, right.
Also, I don't know if this happened to you guys, but the platform that I was watching on, the sound progressively got, like, a minute off.
What were you watching it on?
HBO Max.
Don't watch it on...
It's on Max?
Okay.
That's where I watched it.
It's on Max,
watched it
but
on
the
the channel.
Criterion channel wouldn't let me watch it when it was connected to my TV because I don't know why.
Oh, that's weird.
Oh, sometimes it does that, but it doesn't always do that. You have to, like, fiddle with it.
I watched it on HBO just on my laptop, and I think it was okay.
No, the first...
Okay.
the first time I tried to watch it, I watched half of it, and I watched it on HBO Max, and they did something to it. Like it's a new restoration that they used, and it does not look as good.
Okay.
So,
okay, I might go back and watch it on the Criterion channel. Also because the sound, like it was to the point where like if someone was having a conversation, like for example, if two men were having a conversation, I couldn't tell who was like which line belonged to which person that was speaking in the conversation. Because it was so bad.
That's a weird glitch. Yeah. Okay. In general, what I would say is like there's some tier rankings, I guess, for streaming services. But if you want the best quality, and it's on Criterion channel, definitely watch on there. Not only for that reason, but also because it has like a bundle of other things with it. Like there's a documentary on Bergman's Island, on the Bergman Island documentary, which I've seen bits of, and it's really interesting. There's literally a video of him sitting down and just talking about this movie. There are videos of critics talking about the movie. There's the commentary. There's all this stuff usually packaged in. So that's where I've enjoyed most of the movies we've talked about on this podcast, because it's just better. However, I would say, just also so you know, Passion of Joan of Arc is on there as well, and it's good, and it's also very short. So,
well, I mean, it's shorter.
Isn't it like 70 minutes or something?
Short.
Yeah. That's only. So I've had 3 people tell me that this movie is long. This movie is not long.
It's not long.
It's not long.
Short.
The joke I made in passing was that it's only like 6 minutes longer than Toy Story 2, which is the most annoyingly perfectly paced movie. Like, it's the most economic movie I've ever seen, and I hate it.
That movie was, I think, probably my favorite movie as a kid. That was the one
I watched it a lot.
Got really into.
I liked it,
especially just because of like the bit in the airport with all the like luggages moving
I
around.
love that part because I had also like never flown on an airplane, so I was like, wow.
Interesting. The reason why I liked it is because I flew a lot as a kid. I don't know why, actually. I have no idea why. I guess that's just always been part of my life. I don't know. But I always, I would see them, they put the luggage on the thing and then it like wheels and goes back behind those like rubber things into the back. And I like was always desperate to know what's going on back there. And there were several times that I considered hiding in a luggage.
That'd be so cool.
Yeah.
Or like sitting in one of those little boxes. You can just sit in the little box.
Yeah, it would be cool.
Well,
Didn't ever work out.
I loved that movie as a kid. I rewatched it because I heard a podcast that said, oh yeah, it's still great. Coming back to it, the movie moves so fast, it doesn't feel like it breathes to me. It feels like it's hyperventilating, like plot, it's always moving. There like isn't stillness until that one scene where like the guy does the ASMR cleaning of Woody.
Okay, that's what I was going to say. You have to get some respite
Oh,
from
it's
that
great.
bit.
But just look up that scene on YouTube. Like,
It's so good.
You don't.
Good.
Oh,
It's the best scene in all of film. Maybe we should rework this list for our new format.
yeah.
Make sure we get that one in there, because instead we were going to cover Up, which like Up is like good, but like we could watch the like ASMR sequence of Toy Story 2.
Or we could watch Up and cry about the perfectness of their relationship and hope that someday we can marry someone as beautiful as that.
Maybe we should just cut together all of the like 2 to 5 minute segments from Pixar movies that make everybody feel the emotions, and then just get all of them.
Toy Story 2's is the restoration scene.
And Ratatouille's is that bit where she's holding up the bread and she's like, the crunch, and
Instead of Up, it can just be the Pixar Super episode.
Yeah, we'll just do that.
Yeah, or
and then
we
in
could
Monsters
just watch
Inc.,
all of the
just
Pixar
the opening
shorts.
credits.
That too.
That's true.
Yeah, those are fun.
But the opening credits in Monsters Inc. The
actually
music
like-
is so good.
If we
With the
actually
doors,
So
the
good.
animation is gorgeous.
Yeah.
Oh, I played that song for a recital. I learned
wait.
it and I played it like
I forgot that song's
perfectly.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, and then I can get on my soapbox about how Pixar killed animation by making great movies.
I want to hear that.
Feel that.
I want to hear that so bad.
Yeah, wait another half century and we'll get there.
Yeah. It'll
When
be a
we're
year.
still podcasting.
Yeah. Well,
Heck yeah.
hopefully at that point, I'll have watched Soul again and be able to actually
Still need
talk
to
about
see
it
it.
without feeling guilty.
Okay, I was gonna talk about Soul a little bit because I feel like it's another sort of existentialist, nihilist movie, but like not as good. I mean, obviously it's a children's movie, but I feel like you could say that they're telling a similar story.
Yeah.
Sort of. I don't know. I didn't really
are.
like Soul. I felt like both of those stories are about people grasping for something, because it can't just be emptiness, because what's the point of being a human if it's just emptiness on the other side?
Yeah.
But I like the conclusion. Like, I don't know. I feel like I can say I like the conclusion of Seventh Seal better, even though I wouldn't be able to tell you with words what the conclusion of Seventh Seal is. But I like it better than what Soul concluded with, even though I feel like they tell the same story.
I feel enriched by that ending. And then with Soul, I just felt like everybody else said they cried at a point. I for the life of me, don't know what point it was.
Yeah.
And I didn't feel like there was a conclusion outside of like, hey, pretty cool, right? And I'm like, yeah, I mean, I guess pizza's good.
I think if it had committed to the bit, like this movie does, of like the inevitability of death, and
Which
like
you can't do for a children's movie.
Right. Or you could try, but...
Well, no, but you can come to a point where it's acceptance instead of acceptance and then, oh, wait, we give you a one-up, like in Scott Pilgrim, and you can more, and you can enjoy life. And you're like, okay, that's supposed to be uplifting.
Scott earned the power of self-respect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You earned the power of jazz.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay, that's actually probably my biggest soapbox if we are going to complain about Soul. There's not enough jazz in that movie. There's so much. There's not enough jazz.
Perfect
The
opportunity.
bits that they have literally have John Baptiste playing it, and it's incredible.
It's
the bits
great
that are there
jazz.
are really freaking good.
Not that
and
I'd
there's
know.
like 3 minutes of it, and everything else is what's the name of the Reznors?
Yeah, Trent Reznor and Ross.
Yeah,
It's
Reznor
Pixar
Ross,
music.
Which is weird.
Doing essentially what they do for what's his name?
They're like-
why do I always forget his name?
They're like thumpy music.
Yeah, and they
That's
did
like
Gone
their
Girl,
thing.
didn't they?
Fincher?
Yeah, so they do Fincher movies. That's what
Okay,
it is.
Yes. Yes.
I don't know why
I
they're
just
the ones
heard
that did
them
the score.
do,
It should
like-
have been all Baptiste.
I just heard them do like the Watchmen score for the
Oh,
show, and like
okay.
it's so like drum and bass and electronic and like it's thumpy music,
It-
and like it's cool.
It's
But
good,
it does
but
not.
it just
I would
doesn't-
never put them
Why
in a
is
movie
this
like
in
Soul.
a
Doesn't
movie
make
about
sense.
jazz.
Yeah.
Okay, there's a few different things you could say. One, like, okay, a movie with an African American male lead, where for the majority of the movie he's not in an African American male's body.
Yeah.
is a little bit weird.
But who is in his body? It's Tina Fey.
Right.
That's not problematic at all.
Yeah. I think that's
Yikes.
weird. I also think, it being a jazz movie and not having that much jazz in it is also weird, but it's fine. We don't need to keep talking about Soul because we can all agree we've gotten a lot out of Seventh Seal, and so we don't even really need Soul. And Soul is a movie that now we can all say is for people who haven't watched the Seventh Seal.
Wow,
Well,
it's
I'm
like
the
Seventh
opposite.
Seal, but for less intellectual people.
Oh,
Children.
Yeah. For children.
Children.
Most of the people I know
Nice.
who love that movie are self-proclaimed adults.
Nice.
Like
Oh,
I
that's
think
true.
if someone can get something out of it and get some like fulfillment out of it, especially after what 2020 did to a lot of people,
Yeah.
like mentally and physically, that's great.
You're right.
We aren't
Yeah.
those people.
Nothing against anybody who enjoyed Soul. I'm glad that you got something out of it. I wish I could also get something out of it, and maybe one day I will. At the moment, I'm gonna stick. I guess I'm gonna stick with Bergman. You know, I'm gonna say it now. I'm the least qualified person to say this, but I like Bergman.
Whoa.
Wow. So good.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
I feel the support. I really don't.
Yeah.
I feel it from you, Anna.
I support you in all things.
Thanks.
I'm just a bit resentful that my Swedish lineage can be traced back to one famous director, but not a director who made like David Cronenberg movies. I wish I was from Canada. That would have made me so much happier.
Yeah, I found that's something that was really interesting because Swedish and Norwegian are very similar, and I've been learning a lot of Norwegian lately, and so there were different points in the movie where I was like, I know what they're saying,
Yeah. Nice.
even though I haven't
Wow.
learned any Swedish. It's very
That's
weird.
cool.
Makes sense.
Yeah, it was good. There was like one line in there that I was like, I actually think I didn't need the subtitles on that, and
Nice.
I've only spent like a small amount of time on Duolingo, but you know, it did it for me. I
Yeah.
guess.
Seemed like you were going pretty hard there for a little while.
I was.
That was a while back.
I feel like I'm doing well with it. I
Nice.
like the pronunciation. I like the way that they pronounce things.
Yeah.
Driving people nuts with it. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
It's a good accent. I
Don't
think.
go all, the chef from the Muppets on us.
Oh my gosh, I love that man.
That's great.
Jeg snakker norsk. That's all I'm gonna say.
Nice.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Can I read the most important quote from this movie real
Yeah.
quick?
You should save it for the end.
No, that's
Do it
your
now.
that's
Is
your
the most
shtick.
important quote, I could have raped you, but I didn't?
No.
It's great, but no.
Oh,
It's an
great
iconic quote, of
quote.
course, but no. I like this one that he says near the beginning of the movie. It really struck me. Let's see. How can we believe in the faithful when we lack faith? What will happen to us who want to believe but cannot? What about those who neither want to nor can believe? Why can't I kill God in me? Why does he live on in me in a humiliating way despite my wanting to evict him from my heart? Why is he, despite all, a mocking reality I can't be rid of? That's a very interesting sentiment that, like, to be
We just
honest...
have like a moment of silence to process that. 'Cause,
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
bro.
Why is he, despite all, a mocking reality I can't be rid of?
That's
That's a good bit.
in the same movie where like two random people just decide to hook up in a bush, and it drives the majority of the narrative for like the center of the film.
It's bonkers.
I did kind of want to say that's one of my like big takeaways about this movie is that like there's enough bits of just like succinct depth that like he's able to kind of get across enough to drive our conversations about the sort of existential topics for this whole episode basically. But like I feel like those bits are kind of few and far between. They're just kind of like quick heavy lines, and then the rest of the movie is as I said in my review, it just feels kind of just like a chill hangout movie.
Yeah.
And it's kind of just it's very watchable, I guess. Like it has solid fun characters. The writing is enjoyable. It's got jokes. Like it's not hard to watch like some movies that maybe we've covered could be considered. Not a lot of them. Don't yell at me. I'm just saying it feels like I could sit down with just like random people with this movie and just be like, look, this movie's fun, and it would be.
It isn't Tokyo Story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't go around recommending Children of the Paradise to everyone?
Oh man, I would.
I mean-
I don't know why I still like that movie.
It is an alright movie.
Everyone else thinks it's fine, but
It's our
you,
least popular episode by
I
far.
would never guess why. Some long melodramatic.
Yeah, it's a
Love triangle movie?
It's a 3-hour French
Wow.
melodrama about a love triangle that goes nowhere.
Yeah, Anna, you missed so much. I wasn't even on that
Wow.
episode, but I watched it with him.
Actually,
Oof.
Anna, you
Oh,
would
yeah.
find a lot of it very interesting because there's this like weird kind of tension between. You would.
I feel like, I don't know.
You wouldn't like a lot of it, but you would like because they're like theater actors in a very specific period in history, and there's this kind of tension between like the full-on theater actors and the like the kind of mime. What is it called?
Pantomime?
Oh.
Pantomime.
So, yeah.
And man, the pantomime in the movie is
Okay.
incredible.
It's good pantomime.
You're actually right. I think I would
I think you would
like appreciate it, if
and
not enjoy it.
There's this really good bit where this guy is getting heckled, right? And then he like just does this like brutal takedown of them and sort of in front of the whole audience that like is like the last part of his play. As he like decided to like change the script
Yeah.
and just flip it and do something different, and then he just like lays into this guy in front of the audience. It's anyway. There's a lot of very entertaining
Wow.
bits. I would show you the highlights of it. I don't know if you'd want to watch
Okay.
the full 3 hours, but
Yeah.
But good.
That's my main critique. There are some fun bits, but it's 3 hours long. I mean, it's not as long as the new Justice League cut that's coming out.
It's coming soon. Oh my god.
But it's
Okay,
probably
but-
about just as enjoyable as that will be.
probably a little
just
bit more.
watch.
It's a
Just
little
wait
more.
until we watch A Brighter Summer's Day.
True.
Yeah.
That movie is long.
Well, yeah,
I'm
so
happy to hear that
long.
you've seen
but
it,
it's a
'cause
long
none of the rest of us
depression
have.
movie. We can do a long depression movie.
That's
I like
true.
long.
It's
depression
not.
movies.
It's
Oh.
yeah.
Is it not depressing?
I mean,
I heard it was a movie
Yeah.
about war crimes, but it might I mean,
no.
Okay.
Well, okay. It's really hard to explain. There is a lot of stillness in the movie. Like, I feel like you could cut out an hour of stillness and not lose any plot. Which, I'm not saying, like, I love movies with stillness. I think it's really beautiful. But just to give some context for how much space there is.
I'm excited to have like a fellow appreciator of stillness on the podcast.
Yes,
Where
I'm
were
with
you when we
all the
covered
way.
Tokyo Story? I would have had
I'm
an
all
ally.
about stillness and shoe noises.
Shoe noises.
Yeah,
Okay.
like in the Grand Budapest Hotel. It's like one of my like
Yes.
favorite
Okay,
parts of
yeah.
the movie is like the little shoes.
Yes. Okay. Yes. So I think you and I probably have more similar tastes. So I actually
Okay, but remember we're twins, so
we are twins. That's a good point.
This is not
I guess
news.
this isn't surprising, really. Yeah. I mean, you did watch. I think of your own accord, you watched Patterson recently. So like,
Yeah.
I mean, that's that's about as
Oh, you know,
that's about
I'm
as
just
twin
chilling
as we
by
get.
myself
So
on a
good.
Friday night. Might as well watch Patterson.
It's the most meaningful movie.
So good.
I wanted to find a way to cover that on here. But hey, next semester I actually got has nothing to do for audio listeners. They're getting nothing from this conversation, but I got the go ahead for the like Sigma Tau Delta group to actually run some movie nights on campus.
Nice.
Nice.
Yay!
So if I end up being on campus next semester, I am thinking the two that I'm going to do is I'm going to pick a Malik. It's going to either be the Tree of Life or a Hidden Life, and make
if you do
everybody watch
Tree of
it.
Life, McQueen will be there.
He will, but he will have to be there anyway because he's running Sigma Tau Delta.
That's true.
So I think I might do a Hidden Life just because it's 3 hours long and I can make everybody do it. and like all of the English professors, like Dr. Brian will have to be there. Everybody will have to be there, and then I can get up and give my long rant on that, and I will be allowed to do that. I'll be giving a lecture essentially, and then I want to do Patterson. That's the other one.
Well, here, if you want to cover it on the podcast, sort of, we could find some way to incorporate like a Jarmusch retrospective into Patreon extras.
That's true. For our one Patreon
Yeah.
supporter,
Yeah.
which we should call out. We should mention, guys. We're loaded now. We're rolling in it.
So much money,
Guys. Like, I was gonna say we don't even need y'all anymore, but I guess technically you're paying the bills, so we do. We have our precious boy, our most precious boy, Silas.
Yes.
Who I think was on the Wizard of Oz episode.
2 episodes.
So if you want to hear
Yes.
our beloved patron,
Yeah.
he's in our podcast feed.
Yes. It was The Wizard of Oz and Snow White? No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Snow
Yeah.
White. Mm-hmm.
Those 2 episodes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Long ago.
Good times. Very early on in the podcast. But thank you so much to Silas. I don't remember what the tier name is, but we can just call you
know.
the best friend of the pod.
You can follow him on Letterboxd if you,
You
want
can.
to. He's at
Okay.
Hi Silas.
At Hi Silas. Very
Yeah.
good, very fun reviews. And also, I think a YouTube channel. I can't remember what the channel name. I think probably also Hi Silas.
Either.
Some short films, a dystopian movie, which is like kind of a spoof on the dystopian genre, which is very funny. So that's our plug for our guy Silas, who honestly probably has more followers than we do. Maybe
I don't know.
I mean, probably.
probably.
We're
Yeah.
starting a grassroots movement here. We're still on the on the up and up.
Right. Yeah, we're gonna make it there eventually. You know.
He has 73 subscribers.
Not bad.
Yeah.
He is at Hi Silas on YouTube, and all of his short films are there.
Wonderful. Yeah. So go check that out if you want
and
to.
mini movie essays that I forgot he used
Yes,
to do.
the mini
They're-
essays
they're
were
really
so
good.
fun. Yeah, highly recommended.
They're fun. Anyway,
But yeah, thank you,
that
Silas.
was a big plug.
That was a very big plug.
Thanks, Silas.
Maybe we could also plug ourselves a little bit. I don't know.
What?
I don't think we have as much time for it now.
I mean,
on the budget.
you can find us on Instagram at Movie Overload Pod, Twitter at Movie Overload _
That sounds about right.
I don't know. I have to question this every time.
MovieOverloadPod.com.
MovieOverloadPod.com. Yes, we're on Patreon, obviously. somewhere. If you just search for us, you'll probably find it.
Yeah, we're there. I think we have links to pretty much everything on our website.
Yeah,
as well.
if you just go to the website, you'll find everything else.
If you're unaware that we have a YouTube channel, we do.
Yeah.
I guess this is probably our first filmed one.
Well, we're gonna try it.
How we
I just realized
upload
that editing the audio and the video simultaneously will be kind of maybe a weird task that I'll have to figure out.
Yeah, that
But
might
we'll
be
see.
a little whack. We'll see how it goes.
Maybe. I mean, you can
I don't
just
know.
send the video over to me.
Yeah, true.
True, because you're like
'Cause I
editor in
usually-
chief.
I usually just
No.
edit
Video
the audio
editor.
track on its own.
I'm
so then
just
there's video
an
also.
editing intern
This is true.
That works.
at a place. I don't know what I'm doing yet, but I can try.
That's how it goes.
Hey, I mean, at this point, y'all is doing so much more than I am. Thank you
It's
very
okay.
much.
You're
I
busy.
will bring my
lie. You're
dulcet
busy.
tones every time, and I will provide a very rambly and complicated introduction, and that's all I can really promise.
You
So.
And
are
we
right.
love you for it.
Well vetted academic work.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'll go with it. I want to do a retrospective on Seven Samurai when I'm done with my thesis.
Heck yeah.
I think that would be fun, because at that point, what would have been a 3-hour 45-minute episode of the podcast can now be more like a 20-hour episode of the podcast. So
Delightful.
Heck yeah.
let's go into it. Yeah, do we have any final thoughts on this movie? Maybe how we felt about it as a whole, where it would place in our rankings, how we're feeling about Bergman before kind of wrapping
I
it up.
actually have a comment about rankings because I was reflecting on this. So my top 3 movies that I think every single person should watch. And this isn't, well, okay. 12 Angry Men, which we're watching next week.
Yeah.
Lars and the Real Girl, and
good time.
Take.
oh my gosh, wait, what's that movie called? Oh my gosh, it's like my favorite movie. Why can't I remember what it's called?
What's
Life
it
is
about?
Wonderful? Life is
Who's
Beautiful?
in it?
No, it's not Life is Beautiful.
It's a Wonderful Life?
Dang, I feel like a horrible person. No, I was literally telling my friend about this last night.
This has to be
When
one
did it
you
come
showed
out?
me, right?
Yeah.
No, it's another. Okay, the what I'm trying to get at is that 2 of my 3 most favorite movies are black and white movies from the 40s and 50s.
So it's not the Guernsey Literary Potato Peel Pie Society.
No, but that's a good movie. Oh my gosh!
Is it
Just go with 20th century
Casablanca.
women.
No, it's the one about the guy who has the rabbit friend.
Oh, Harvey.
Harvey?
Yeah.
Harvey!
Like the stage play adaptation?
Yes!
With
That-
Sam Stewart. Yeah.
I have not
And
seen
not
that
because
movie.
I
not
grew up
because it's
watching
particularly well done. I don't know, I think it's nice, but also just the story itself.
I-
Anyway,
Mhm.
all I'm trying to say is that 3 out of my top 4 movies ever are black and white movies from the 40s and 50s, and I just think that's interesting.
We're going for it.
That's
You're
all
you're
right.
you're in the right era. You jumped in
I
at the
mean-
right time.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
You guys can't see me, but I usually am fully vintage styled, so
Yes.
I use foam rollers every night.
And it's fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think my favorite, if I had to pick 3 movies that everybody should see, I don't know, I guess Patterson would be one of them.
It's a good one.
I don't know, for me personally, Francis Ha's been pretty significant, but I don't know if that's the one that I would put there. I really feel like people should watch Tokyo Story. I know nobody's gonna like it, but it's really had just such a significant
Good. Yeah.
impact. It's a really beautiful film. And probably a Chaplin, just any Chaplin. They're all so good. I always try to pick a favorite Chaplin movie and I can't, so I'm just gonna say watch Modern Times, and then move on.
Interesting.
Yeah,
I feel compelled to say things now.
go for it.
Even though as a concept, I don't think I'm equipped to discuss this because the films
hard.
that are meaningful to me are meaningful to me, and the films that are going to be meaningful to you are going to be meaningful to you. And you just need to go out and explore, because sometimes a film that everyone else hates is going to blow your mind and
That's
change
true.
your perspective on
Some
everything.
people really love the Keanu Reeves 47 Ronin.
Oh God.
Do they?
Yes.
Yeah.
Is that
Yes.
that's
A guy that we used to work with
Yeah.
insisted that was like the best movie he'd ever seen.
Okay, so he's not wrong, but I don't want to talk to him about movies because I will become sad. That's you're not wrong. Watch whatever you want. I will be sad if you watch the Keanu Reeves 47 Ronin and think that it's the best movie ever made.
Bummer.
That's a good statement. How about for you, Hunter?
My only statement is watch Paddington 2.
You're right, though.
Paddington 2. A
We're getting
delightful
there.
romp.
You know, we could have had Patterson on this list, but instead we have Paddington 2. And I honestly don't know if I can really... I don't think I have it in me to change that up, you know?
Yeah.
I think that has to stay.
Please.
Paddington 2 is the best children's movie ever made,
I love it.
objectively.
I
No,
like Castle
no
in the
debate.
Sky.
Castle in the Sky is really good.
That movie
But
was my childhood.
And that was my favorite Miyazaki film for a long time. That was one of my favorite movies for a long time. It's still not Paddington 2. Like, I'm sorry. But we can move on.
My only last thing is I have a small anecdote that this movie brought up the Seventh Seal specifically. Brought up a like weird old childhood memory for me, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It just reminded me of the existence of this kids book, like a big like picture book thing that I read when I was young. And I had to look it up because I couldn't remember the name of it. But like I just remembered that the ending had always kind of stuck with me. And it's called Keeper of Souls, except it's spelled SOLES. So it's kind of a joke. But like the cover art has like the main character like playing chess with Death. And Death kind of is looking like how he looks in this movie.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That's great.
But the story is that he's like a cobbler. And Death is like, I'm here. It's your time. And he's like, but what if I gave you these 6 sandals? And Death's like, okay. And then leaves. And it's basically just kind of this funny, like, I don't know, journey of that happening over and over again. And I just remember that the ending is being like, okay, I'm here for your soul. And the guy's like, I have given you soul after soul after soul. And then Death thinks that's so funny that he just like leaves him alone again.
That's great.
And it's kind of fun. I remember it caught my eye because it has this really like kind of weirder, distinct art style to it. And I haven't seen it in a really long time, but it's always stuck with me.
That's incredible.
That's
I
so
really
cool.
like that. That's honestly that kind of beats the pop culture reference I was going to go to, the obvious one of just Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey.
Well,
which is,
yeah.
you know, they have the same bit except
Right.
instead of playing chess, they play
Twister.
You know,
Oh yeah.
Twister's one
that's
of them.
right.
Battleship. They just play all these different games and they keep beating Death, and Death's like, best out of 7.
Yeah.
It's very
Still need to
funny.
see that.
Yeah.
It's really, really funny. That's my favorite bit of probably any of those movies.
Oh, nice. Cool.
Good movie.
Mm.
But yeah, I don't know. I'd give Seventh Seal 4.5. It's probably in the top 10 of movies we've covered at the very least for me.
It's pretty good.
Something like that. I think it's good. It's not Tokyo Story for me.
Mhm.
I love the fact that I unironically think Tokyo Story is the best
it's
one.
good.
It's, you know, it's something I'm gonna hold on to forever.
Sure.
Even when I rewatch it and hate it the second time, I'm gonna pretend like I didn't. Very cool.
Heck yeah.
Is there anything else we should say before we wrap up?
I don't know. I think we're okay.
All good?
Cool.
No final thoughts? Okay.
Yeah.
Well then, I guess I have to do the thing where I slowly
Wait, I found one.
ramble
I found
trying
one.
to find
No,
a
you don't.
quote. As we say at the end
Wait, hold on. I just have to
of
pull it.
every episode of the podcast when it ends, and I ramble on and on
I
trying
have
to
a very
give
profound quote for you.
him time.
Okay, are you
This
ready?
is what we say.
Whichever way we turn, our rump is behind us.
Yes.
you did it.
Yes.
I'm proud.
I forgot that was there. I had to look it up again. But
That's
yeah, the most profound line of all the lines in the movie.
Thank you for watching or listening,
Hooray.
depending on what you did.
Some combination, perhaps.
Amen.
I think.
I think that's the end of the podcast.
Hooray.
seventh seal has broken.
Wow.
And there was silence in heaven.
For half an hour.
Also, I feel like the most influential line from this movie should have been what's his face just like roasting his wife and like, you're just a strumpet.
So good. That exchange was awesome. I loved that.
I pulled up this quote and I was trying to find something funny, but everything that they stuck in here is all the meaningful ones.
So I had to scroll pretty far down the IMDb quotes page to find the rump one.
Maybe put this in as like further reading. Four Quartets by T.S. Eliot. I keep like, you know how much I've talked about this, just like in every conversation. I'm like, but in Four Quartets, this is crazy stuff.
It does seem like it would be a good pairing.
I don't know. There's a bit in Seventh Seal where they're like, just give one push. I think the guy's like being hung or like on a cliff or something, and he's like, just give one push, and you become like, your untangible reality becomes a real tangible corpse. And like the fact that you're not real until you're dead. And like in this book, in Four Quartets, like one of the main themes is like humankind can't bear very much reality. Like there's not, like, this existence isn't real.
Good things.
Y'all, before I go, yesterday was the bonkerest day I've ever had. I drank a quad shot latte in the morning, okay? Well, I was sipping on it all day, but like, okay, so like I started my day and I was just like, I can't do this. I have to write this huge paper about the meta-ethics of drone strikes in the war on terror. So
topical.
I like sit down and I'm like, I can't do this paper. So I put on, my roommate and my friend both have a playlist called Kill All Men. And basically it's like feminist punk rock and like Beyonce and like Kesha and like Lizzo. It's great.
Nice.
So I like put on this playlist at 9 a.m. trying to give myself energy to write this paper. And I'm like drinking this latte all day and I'm writing this paper and I'm just like running all over. I had tons of meetings and I like sit down at 3 p.m. to watch Seventh Seal. So I'm like buzzed out of my mind, and I'm like watching this movie about philosophy, and then I had to like run up the hill and I was in this discussion about racial reconciliation, and it was just like the weirdest day of so many things happening, all while like singing punk rock songs about like women's empowerment. I don't know, it was a weird day.
Something I can only imagine you pulling off. It's incredible.